In this video, we see whether or not the all-wheel drive transmission and transfer case will fit into our 1.8 Turbo Cruze Project. Will it fit? Let's find out. Welcome back. If you're new to the channel, I'm Matt. Let's go ahead and continue working on this all-wheel drive swap. What we're going to do in this episode is see whether or not this all-wheel drive transmission, which is a 6-speed M32, there's our all-wheel drive output, there is our transfer case and our adapter. And one of the things I suspect is that transfer case will end up running into our power steering up here, which I've got a solution in mind, but let's test fit things. Also need to install the new clutch we just got. If you haven't seen that video, I'll post a link right here. There she is, just waiting to be installed. I did end up getting a creeper for our new lift here, which is working great. Here's another new Harbor Freight toy that we got for the lift so we can drain our fluids. However, I do need to modify this thing. We'll address that here soon. And we got this handy dandy transmission jack. Make life a little bit easier getting the transmission out because these things weigh about 120 or so pounds. Because we do have a dyno session coming up March 10th, the plan is to remove the transmission that's in the car. We'll install the new clutch. And with the transmission that's currently in there, one of the issues with that transmission is the 4th gear synchros are out. Patch everything back up so that way we can make this dyno appointment and see what old girl is making horsepower wise, because everyone's been curious, including myself. So we'll get that answer, get it nice and tuned by some professionals that know what they're doing with fuel tech. We've got a fuel tech ECU in here. So let's go ahead and chug on and start taking this thing apart. Stop the yapping and get to it, shall we? So much better not having to kneel over. Hey, look at that. I can bring y'all with me now. I need to pull the axles, however, I need to be able to drain the fluid. Let's go ahead and modify this guy right here. I'm going to shorten this telescoping drain tube to about half the length. We'll be able to put it to use with our particular kind of mid-rise lift. This is great for a full-size two-post lift. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. Should be a quick, simple project. In case you're wondering about this hole right here, yes, I did do that on purpose so I don't have to get out a drill. Let's make things fast and easy. Tack this bad boy in there, turn our amperage down. Good enough. There we go. Bada bing, bada boom. There we go. Yeah, look at that. Bada bing, bada boom, ladies and gentlemen. All right, let's drain some transmission fluid. I'm gonna be able to fit in there. That's it right there. There we go. Start taking this guy out. Hopefully don't lose our plug in the process. See if we can't move this over quick like. Oh, snap! Well, Got it! On a side note, our fluid is looking pretty damn good. Now we got that done. Let's drop this cradle a little bit. 21 millimeter. I don't want it all the way out. I'm gonna drop it down a little bit to make it easier to remove our CV axles and sway bar, steering box. Bitch is in there good. There we go. All right, see if we can separate this ball joint real quick like. Without tearing things up. There you go. I remember my dad working with these things and always thought they were cool. This is what we did as kids with them. There we go. Now I just think I'll pop the damn thing out. See what we're gonna catch over here. Perfecto. I might have to turn the steering wheel. There we go. Jeez Louise. Come over. There we go. See if we can't wedge this thing out of there. There we go. There we are. Let's lower this thing down some so that way we can start working from the top. Be easier for me to access the sway bar bolts that hold the sway bar in place to the subframe. Start unbolting the transmission from the top, disconnecting what we can. We'll raise it back up, pull this damn thing on out. All right. Well, there she goes. Make sure we're not crushing anything. All right, let's get this battery box out the way. Slide the old computer off. One battery box. Okay, I'm gonna put my head down and start working on the top end of the car here. We're gonna get this transmission out. As much as I wanna film every single step, I just need to get after it. Setting up the camera takes a lot of time. So I'm gonna get after it, get this transmission just about the way out. Then once we're underneath the car, we'll show using the old, well, I should say new transmission jack to get this thing out. So I'm gonna get to work. We got the last bolt removed from the subframe. It is now sitting on these carts. Let's go ahead and lift this thing up. And there it is in all its glory. Wheel this thing out the way. Well, she's completely unbolted, ready to come out. Got my support brace on the engine. Let's see if we can't bring this thing down. And the transmission is out. There's very little difference between the two transmissions, aside from this one has an extra bolt hole, which we don't use. Aside from that, the casing over here looks the same, aside from the only real difference between the two. If you take a look at this line right here, and we look at this transmission, it just doesn't have that ear. for the transfer case adapter. So I'm thinking we could probably just remove the differential out of this transmission, see what's going on in here, toss this one in the car so we don't have to do this all over again, because this was a real pain in the neck. Pulling a transmission out of these cars is probably about twice the amount of work of pulling a transmission out of, let's say, a rear-wheel drive vehicle. It's just an absolute pain in the ass. Everything's so cramped and tight, but we got it done. It is the next day, ladies and gentlemen, and let's crack the cover off the differential and take a look at how this is actually set up. I'm curious, I'm sure you guys are curious, because I want to know whether or not I can toss my limited slip in there. Plus, we need to convert this real quick to just a two-wheel drive setup so we can put it on a dyno. So let's go ahead and remove this differential cover. See if this piece will pry out, because it looks like, well, unfortunately the way this is looking is this is a sleeve that goes over a part that is machined into this diff. You can see the splines down in there and how this thing just slides right over the differential. Not a big deal, we'll just have to run an open differential once we toss this back in so we can complete our all-wheel drive conversion. But for now, I'm gonna take my limited slip differential. All this stuff will just swap right over to the all-wheel drive transmission. So I'm not gonna waste any time and go ahead and get after that. I need to seal it up, lock tight the bolts, torque them to spec, and then we need to install the twin clutch. Lots to do, so let's get after it. Before I toss this back together, I thought it was interesting that this older model of the M32 transmission has 10 bolts versus this crown gear has 12. I think it's 12. I think you get the idea. It doesn't have bolts that go all the way around it. Quite interesting. Anyhow, let's toss on some RTV, slap this thing back together, call it a day. I'm going to put a thin layer of RTV on this seal. We're reusing this seal here. And all of that orange seal, that coating on it that seals it up, stuck in that other transmission. So I'll just pound this guy in, just like so. Here's my special socket I use just for this occasion. Nice and seated. All right, let's move on to this clutch. See how this guy's been holding up. See how much life is left on it. I really need to turn this up. There we go. Yeah, she's getting pretty thin. Good thing we called it. Let's see how much material we have left here. Not a whole lot. So I'd say that's about, put about 20,000 miles on that clutch. A lot of pulls. Held great. Did its job, and this flywheel's holding up great too. Never came undone, so there's that. Didn't find it sitting in my transmission. See how our seal's holding up too. Come on, shut up already. Golly. All right. Couple little hot spots, but we can get that turned down, reuse this thing. Our seal's not leaking, so we're in pretty good shape. I just cleaned it up a little bit back there. Call it a day, toss in our new unit. Got us some of that 50 steak formula. Ugh, smell like 50 steak. All right, our little timer went off. now we can torque all this stuff to spec. From what I found online is 80 to 90 Newton meters on these big guys. Some people say 110. I think that's a little high myself. Toss on a little red Loctite, keep these things from backing out. Okay, where were we before? Ow, son of a, before we got interrupted. New flywheel bolts. Of course, they sell them separately. Everybody orders just one. Like when I go to the grocery store, I just order one hot dog. New flywheel bolts. Get on there. All right, that'll hold it. Hold all the power. All right, we'll take some of this 50 state stuff here. It doesn't smell like states at all. Maybe Florida. All right, this is gonna be tough. Clean our little friction plate up here and get rid of this plastic. I was stuck to it last video. Let me just hold this up here so y'all can see. Yeah, all nice and clean. Our other little friction disc. Everything's nice and clean. Then, let's see if we can't somehow magically line all this shit up. We're in the ballpark. Definitely need a second set of hands here. There are 2 yellow lines set up. Toss these in there finger loose so I can hopefully line these clutches up. Might have to take that other transmission apart, use it as a makeshift clutch alignment tool, but we'll see if we can get away with it. I couldn't find any nearby. May have one in stores, but it's an hour away, hour back. Got ourselves our own makeshift alignment tool. Now we need to line these splines up, but the battery died on the camera, but we've got the flywheel and clutch all bolted in. Got our transmission on our transmission jack. Now let's lower the car down. Go ahead and start bolting up the transmission. Wrap this up, shall we? And we'll test fit the transfer case. See where it's going to end up and what it's going to hit. So that way we can continue this all-wheel drive swap after the dyno session. So let's get after it. We've got the transmission in. I left the cradle out. I have the adapter plate all bolted up. Let's see where this transfer case is going to fall and what changes we would have to end up making to the Cruze in order to make this all-wheel drive conversion successful. Let's go ahead and take a look. All right, boys and girls, moment of truth here. We'll take a look and see where this transfer case actually falls. Hopefully I'm not in y'all's way too much. So, kind of stuck right here. It needs to go up. Whoa! Just a hair more, but you can see. I'm gonna try and hold this up here. Thing is not like. You can see that this thing is hitting the firewall. So basically, what we're looking at, we were just about in place, but we're hitting the firewall right here. So we definitely would have to notch the firewall in the floor. We'd have to remove this electronic steering, in which a solution would be to use a Sonic View electronic power steering unit, which we'll have to retrofit that into the steering column somehow, because all this goes up even further. Right now it's just kind of hanging on by the steering column. So that is going to be quite a lot of work, which I don't mind doing. We're just not going to be able to get that done before the dyno session. So I'm going to put everything back together, take this adapter out, and see how this new transmission is doing. Make sure we have all the gears. And we'll pick up from there. Let's get after it. Before I toss all this back together and put the CV axles in, let me show you something. Here is the stock CV axle, and then here's the CV axle that would come off of that transfer case. And one of the issues we're having, I should be able just to jam this right through this side. However, this spline is larger, so we'll have to figure that out. I don't know if we can swap these ends over, the CV axle. I don't see why we wouldn't be able to, but that's something we're going to have to address moving forward with this all-wheel drive swap. That's going to wrap it up for this video. We got the transmission in, fluids topped off, clutch installed. I still need to address the leak on the turbo manifold, install our 220 injectors. It's going to take a lot of work to fit in that transfer case. More than likely I'll have to remove the console, take the carpet out, modify the floor, but it's not something that we can't handle, and I'm looking forward to continuing this all-wheel drive conversion. But for now, we need to get the car ready mechanically for a dyno session. Be sure to stay tuned, because next video I'll drop a little bit of a hint towards the end of the video as to who I'm going to get this thing tuned up. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, comment down below, let me know what you think about where we're at with this swap, some of the things you foresee needing to be done in order to make this work, and we'll see you in the next one, boys and girls. Peace out.